Well, I wanted to welcome everyone. If you are on Facebook and joining us live, I am Dr. Leanne Rogers, Doctor of Physical Therapy and owner of Balance by Lee at Home Physical Therapy and Wellness, where we provide in-home physical therapy services to older adults to keep you active and mobile so you can remain independent. And this morning, I have the pleasure to sit down with Jayne Reynolds. I brought back this interview series. I took a little hiatus in the summer to kind of hang out with my kids, but now they're back in school. So I'm excited to start this up again, and excited to have Jayne on and speak with us and share her knowledge and passion about food and nutrition. Before we came on, we were chatting a little bit, and I started this interview series to bring people on or businesses who can provide some just benefit and education to this population. And especially in regards to nutrition, there's so much confusion that surrounds it. I mean, at all ages, it's confusing, but even more so to, I think, the older adult. They get their information from their doctors or from the media, and it's confusing because everyone is vying for different things for different reasons, and some of it's not true and right, as we were talking about earlier, and we'll dive into it with our questions. So let me introduce Jayne. She is originally born from the United Kingdom, UK, so you'll hear her accent. She married an American and moved to the US in 1995. And after starting her family, she worked at Fellowship Square Historic Mason 2008 for about 12 years.
Yes.
And then during those years, she had several bouts of serious illness, and through a lot of prayers, it became clear that she needed to make a drastic lifestyle change. Her thirst for knowledge and desire to help others took her to Energetic Health Institute, where she graduated as a certified holistic nutritionist in 2016. She received her board certification through the National Association of Nutrition Professionals in 2017. Her passion for the holistic well-being of others led her to open Abundant Life Nutrition and Wellness Center. There she uses nutrition to help her clients improve their brain health. Her hope is that she will help all those who cross her path to restore their health, reduce their stress, and rediscover their joy. So welcome, Jayne. Thank you again for joining me and taking time out of your day to talk about this subject and hopefully give some clarity to this age group.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So tell me about Abundant Life Nutrition and Wellness, because it's in the East Valley, right?
It is, but we are working from home since COVID. So all of our appointments are just like this. We have telehealth appointments that we do online with you. So we really have a wide reach. You don't have to just be in the East Valley to come and work with us. And I say us, there's two nutritionists on board, myself and Kelly Calkins, who you've also met. And we really take a long time to go through our clients. When somebody comes on board and wants to work with us, we really do an in-depth health history. It's incredibly important for us to do that with them. We run delayed food sensitivity tests. We look for patterns of dysfunction inside their physical well-being. And then we use nutrition and supplements and lifestyle changes to really help them feel better than they have done in a very long time. And we work with a lot of women, especially those dealing with sort of autoimmune disease. But I have a passion and a heart for working with people who are struggling with just brain health issues as well. Having been on in the senior circuit for a long time, and just kind of seeing what happens when we don't take care of ourselves, it really made me want to reach out and help people before they even get to that point. But so yeah, that's what we get to do every single day. It's a joy and a delight.
Good. Awesome. Now, your business works with all ages, right? But
Yes.
you also spent some time working with the older adult population. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. So I kind of did that whole like double thing where I was working full time for Fellowship Square, but also getting my education in nutrition, and then overlapped my time working there as I began my business. And so I did a lot of work with them, helping with the menus at the retirement community, but also seeing I needed board certification hours. And so the residents were very gracious and allowed me to work with them one-on-one to build my hours for my certification, and still see some of those clients today. And so it was really good, to get a really good handle on working with people who were, honestly, probably most of them were 75 and 80.
Okay. So yeah, you have that experience there as well.
Yes.
So, I brought you to talk about nutrition because I go into people's homes, obviously older adults, and work with them for, rehab or trying to get them stronger. And I always address nutrition, and I kind of address it globally because that's not my scope of practice. But,
Right.
in order to get stronger or gain more muscles, they need to eat protein. And I see a lot of times that they don't. And so I try to address broad things and ask, what are you eating? And I find a lot of times that, oh, well, we live off frozen dinners. Or now that there's a lot of these meal services coming in, they order meal services. Or now that there's DoorDash and all these people that deliver foods, meals are readily available. But still, it's not always the best quality of food. So in your experience, can you tell me what you feel is kind of like the most common nutritional deficit among this demographic?
Yeah, I think there actually ends up being quite a lot, just because of the very nature of the things that you were talking about. So even my mother-in-law really doesn't have a desire to cook for herself because she's living on her own by herself, right? She does, but it's not like her favorite thing to do anymore because the community around the table is gone. And so that's difficult. I do see a lot of microwave meals. We see older adults losing their sense of taste and smell, and then the meal becomes unappetizing. And as we've gone through COVID, I had COVID last year, July, and I lost my sense of taste and smell. And it was amazing how much that really impacted what I wanted to eat because I couldn't enjoy or appreciate it. And we got factors like, having difficulty swallowing and some of those other things. So all of that has to be like weighed up, and that all impacts those nutritional deficiencies that they're facing. So there are things like vitamin D is a huge one. And I think we've seen that through COVID as well with when they did studies, they showed that 80% of the people who contracted it and ended up in the hospital were low in vitamin D. And I think that we don't think about that because it's a sunshine vitamin and we're supposed to be outside. And here in the valley, we've got so much sunshine. We think that we should have normal levels of vitamin D, but so many of us are lacking in that often. Zinc is a huge one because it's used so much in immunity, and as we're aging, our body's using it up to try and protect us, and so it just kind of gets depleted over time, and that affects our sense of taste and smell. So I know a lot of my seniors are low in zinc. Protein, you mentioned. As we age, we have stomach acid, and that's there to break down proteins inside our digestive tract. And when we don't, as we get older, we don't have enough of that. It just naturally dwindles. And then we see so many people on antacid medications, which lowers that even more, which means that they're not breaking down their proteins properly and they're not digesting them the way that they should. And that counts for muscle, and it helps with our neurotransmitters and feeling happy. We need that. It's our basic building block. So that one is probably one of the harder ones to see. We see calcium deficits and B vitamins as well, because B vitamins are water soluble and they're very easily damaged during cooking. And so when you, and they get lost, right? With boil things, they come out in the water. So when you've got these prepackaged frozen meals, they really don't have any of those water soluble nutrients left in them because they've just gone by very nature of the production method that got them to the freezer in the first place. High heat so that they kill off any bugs and germs and in the cooking process. So all of that, it really contributes to that. And that is really sad because the B vitamins are so necessary for our brain health as we age. B12 is really important. B1 is really important for brain health. So yeah, those are probably some of the bigger ones that I see The last one would be omega-3s. And those are just our healthy fats that help our brain. Our brain is 70% fat. If you actually, it's kind of gross to think about, but if I just scooped your brain out right now, it would be soft like butter. Yeah. It's not, we see the ones on the TV, like they come out the jar and they're all rubbery. They're not like that when they're inside your skull. They're very soft and buttery because they're 70% fat. And so when we eat nasty fats that are like on fried foods and those kinds of things, that makes up every single cell in your body. These are phospholipid bilayers on your hands and in your skin, in your brain. And so when you have those unhealthy fats, it's just causing a lot of damage to your liver and to your brain and to your skin and just about every other part of your body. So omega-3s from fish, a lot of people don't like to eat fish. Yeah, supplementing with an omega-3 can be a good plan.
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of do a curveball on you.
Okay.
So I have a lot of adults who I feel like sometimes they're my kids, they just don't like eating vegetables, you know, and it's a struggle to get them to eat vegetables or try to add that. And those vegetables are where a lot of those minerals are, those B12s, vitamin K, and all of that. Do you have an advice or suggestion when you know, are in consultation or helping people with adding those vegetables?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple things that just pop into my mind right away. The first one is seasoning, because we often don't like vegetables because we feel like they don't have a lot of flavor, and that's a whole nother thing. If you're eating a processed food diet that's super high in salts and fats, it's often been manufactured to tickle those senses and make us want it more and to not appreciate the taste that comes in a vegetable. I love the taste of vegetables. I did years ago, I went through a season where I like took all that processed food out for 2 weeks and then reintroduced foods. And I think the first thing I reintroduced was a strawberry. It tasted so good because it had all this, it was so much flavor, and I hadn't appreciated that. I had taken fruits out and processed foods. So I hadn't appreciated that flavor before because my taste buds were so dull because of all the salt and fat that was in the processed foods that I'd been eating and the sugar. So they have an amazing flavor, but there are so many herbs and spices that you can roast them in or season them with. You can make your own. It's so easy to make your own salad dressings at home that are really clean, that are chock full of seasoning and give flavor to things. And as long as you don't have like tons of cardiac issues, even a little Himalayan pink salt goes a long way. It helps us to want to eat our vegetables. The other thing is hiding it and stuff, because we do that for our kids, right? We make spaghetti sauce and we like sneakily chop up zucchini. I remember having a conversation once where my daughter asked me, she's like, why are we buying zucchini? And I'm like, because I put them in the tacos. And she's like, you put zucchini in the tacos? Like, how could you do that to me? Right? She just felt completely violated. But yeah, we just, if you dice up those veggies, we used to get, zucchini and olives and I think cauliflower in there as well, just in our tacos. You can hide them in spaghetti sauces. There's all kinds of ways to get those extra veggies in. You can do leafy greens and avocado in a smoothie, and they virtually disappear if you've got a little bit of fruit in there. So you've got all kinds of options.
Yeah. All right. Yes. I thankfully have one child who loves vegetables and another one that she'll eat them if, she has to, but for the most part, they comply. But I know it's a struggle, like husbands and wives, like one of them's on board and realizes like they need it, but the other one's like, he won't touch it or very picky and it's hard. And sometimes they don't like making shakes or they don't like drinking it. And it's just a challenge, on trying to show them the importance of it. Getting vegetables and all of that.
Yeah, I had a friend long time ago who taught me about the no thank you portion, which was at the dinner table when the kids were like, no, thank you, I don't want that. She would give them like a tablespoon of it, and that was their no thank you portion. And so they still had to get a little bit of it. They just got a lot less of it than like an entire plate of broccoli. Right. So, and it is a fight. I mean, I did the same thing with my 3 kids. I had videos of my daughter eating broccoli. You'd think we were torturing her. So yeah, I get it. But maybe those things will help.
Right. And then it's hard when these older adults too don't have control of their food.
It
And
is very
we
difficult.
talked
Yes.
about a little bit about this offline too in, a lot of these facilities that the
Yeah.
places they're staying at, the lack of nutritional food that is being delivered to
Hmm.
these adults makes that challenging as well. So
Yes.
that's another battle that we fight if they're not preparing their own food in their own home.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
tell me what you feel the connection between food and immune system is. And I mean, I know the answer to this. I am a complete firm believer, as you guys are, that food is medicine and it can
Yes.
heal your body. And I've seen it firsthand with my son who had eczema, and I didn't need to get a pill or a cream to cure it. And it was just about what he ate. Um,
Hmm.
Essentially what I ate because I was still breastfeeding him. And once
Yep.
I changed all of that, his eczema went away. So there is power in what we feed our bodies and how we respond, or how our bodies respond to what we eat. So, going along, COVID is still going on. It's not completely away, and there's always flu season and cold season.
Hmm.
What kinds of foods and what kind of connections is there to help with our immune system?
Yeah, we talk a lot about, especially with the COVID season that we've been through, and just to be really clear, we're not, promising that we're treating or healing, COVID with nutrition or any of those other pieces. What we're talking about is helping you to have a robust immune system right from the get-go, right? I told you I had COVID a year ago. I'm not immune from getting sick. When these bugs and viruses come around, I don't get them as often. And when I do, I'm usually able to fight them off because my immune system is shored up and robust and resilient because of the way I handle my diet all year long. This isn't something that we just do overnight. When we think something's coming on, we take care of our immune system through the whole year. And I talked to you a minute ago about the nutrients that our seniors are missing from their diet because they do have all these nutritional deficiencies, and they're one of our most vulnerable populations if we think about COVID. And they are one of the most susceptible, and partly because of the high risk of cardiac disease at that age and the high risk of diabetes at that age because the numbers are climbing. But the zinc, the vitamin A, the vitamin D, the vitamin C, all those help. Glutathione help to secure a healthy, robust immune system. And I think all of that begins in the kitchen. It's not like the end of it all. And I'm not, anti-conventional medicine. I just think we can take a lot more steps. We can be far more empowered to have control over our immune responses in general, broad, big umbrella, when we learn how to cook and take care of ourselves well. And we saw that in our own family when we made changes, when we started eating this way. Our medical bills dropped from about 14% of our income to about 4%. Now, our grocery bill went up because we were taking care of ourselves, but I'd far rather spend at the grocery store than I'd spend at the doctor's office, right? And just, coconut oil, garlic, these foods have antimicrobial properties that help our bodies out to fight off infection as we're eating. High stomach acid helps to fight off infections as they get introduced to our bodies. So there's all kinds of pieces to that puzzle. That resilience really does begin in the kitchen, though. And so we actually have a webinar coming up on August 25th at 2 p.m. to just talk more about that topic. It's called Eating for Optimal Immunity. And if anybody wants to join us for that, then you just need to reach out to you or me, and we'll get them connected and hooked up and signed up for the webinar. And then we've got a cooking class coming at the end of the month that's going to help with that as well.
Nice. I know. And you guys provide all of these great webinars on different topics with nutrition. And so at the end of this, we'll get your information on how they connect to you. And I'll also put it in the comments with a link for all of that if anyone else is interested. Going along with immunity and your immune system, I've been reading so much research and listening to podcasts a lot lately about probiotics and how, a lot of our immune system too is housed in our gut. And so many people just don't think about probiotics, or they're not on one. And I'll ask people in general too, when I'm in their homes, if they're on one. And a lot of times it's no. So can you speak to probiotics and why it's important? And, I know it's a lot of people just take a pill, but it's also, you can have, yogurt, the other probably popular way is yogurt, but other common places that you can find that, and then the importance of probiotics.
Yeah, so again, you and I talked offline a little bit about just the need for individualized care, right? So in general, it's a good idea to be on a probiotic. And the reason is that by the time for me, I was only 20 by the time I had 22, by the time I had completely screwed up my gut microbiome.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't really through any fault of my own, except I wasn't taking care of myself well then. I had an E. coli infection. I ended up in the hospital and they gave me lots and lots of antibiotics, and it destroyed all of the good bacteria inside my gut. And within 6 weeks of being discharged from the hospital, I was dealing with severe panic attacks every single day, because the good bacteria inside our gut help us make our neurotransmitters. Like 60 to 70% of them are made inside our gut. They've got nothing to do with where they are in our brain. It's all to do with our digestive tract. So they're important for that reason. So if you've even been on a course of antibiotics, you could have seriously caused damage. It kills off the good stuff and the bad stuff. Sometimes it's necessary, but it does kind of go in like napalm and kind of decimate the
A lot of
flora.
are on
Well,
antibiotics because they get UTIs or something else, and
yes.
it's never prescribed. Doctors never follow up and say, "Oh, look, we just did this, and now maybe you should be on an
Right.
antibiotic."
So reseeding the gut is a real thing after you've been through a course of antibiotics. And in general, most people do well with a broad spectrum probiotic, but there's other things that damage that as well. Genetically modified foods, a highly processed food diet, lack of variety. So the thing that builds a good, healthy gut microbiome is all your variety of colored fruits and vegetables, and a high fiber diet. We don't get enough fiber in our diets at all. We should be aiming for about 35 grams of fiber per day. And that helps to break down, it feeds the bacteria inside the gut, the good stuff, and helps us to populate a really good microbiome in there. But then we run into people, and this is where it gets more personalized. If you're dealing with small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, you may find that some of those probiotics actually trigger worse events with IBS and some of those things. So that's why it's so individualized and important for us to have a conversation, because there could be probiotics that suit you better and others that don't. And then the last thing I'd say on that is to just watch what you're buying when you go to the store. I had somebody asked me to review their probiotic. They just picked it up off the shelf, and it was a probiotic gummy. So it was already like housed in sugar and gel and all this other stuff, right? It's got food coloring in it. And then it had like 100 or 200 CFUs, colony forming units of probiotic in it. That's absolutely nothing. Our standard one that we hand out is usually 10 to 50 billion colony forming units. So when they're like, this has 100 in it, I'm like, that's not going to do anything. Like, that's not doing anything against the onslaught of the things that you're putting in. So it's a diet related thing. Like, we need to get it there. Maybe you're dairy intolerant. You can still get it in non-dairy yogurt. Just watch your sugar content, because that doesn't help. Yogurt can be a very sweet product. Kombucha, fermented foods like sauerkraut, but done in like brined water, not in vinegar. That's the key to the difference. That brine helps to build all of the probiotic cultures inside of it. So those are the things that can help. But if you have high histamine issues, like you're allergic to just about everything, you might really struggle with some of those fermented foods. They don't always sit well. So that's why it's important to have a conversation with somebody like myself, who can help you to get to the bottom of what you've got going on, and then figure out what the right fit is for you for your gut health.
It's like you said, so personalized, just like exercise programming. It's not one exercise is great for all the people. If you have back pain and you had ankle surgery and this and that, it's going to be different prescribing you an exercise program. In the same way, if you have diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol, XYZ, the same foods are going to affect your body differently than someone who's just a healthy 65-year-old, getting older and going through
Yes.
So
absolutely.
The need for personalized care and individualized care is so important these days, that you can't just watch the video or watch the commercial ad and be like, oh, I think that'll work for me, and then you take it and it doesn't work, or something else happens and they don't make that connection that because I tried that on TV, it now flared this up.
Yes.
So yeah.
Or interacted with a medication. Oftentimes we don't think about that, but supplements, especially, I saw that a lot working with seniors. You get a lot of advertising that's coming straight to your mailboxes, full infomercials and 4-page pamphlets, bright colors, cheerful, makes you want to buy it, makes you think it's the most wonderful thing in the world. But it might interact with your medication. It might not be a right fit for you. I've got a couple of people that we've had to put on digestive enzymes recently, and one of the most popular ones is papain, which comes not papain, bromelain, which comes from pineapple. But we did their food sensitivity testing, and pineapple was way off the charts high for them. So giving them a supplement with something inside of it that wasn't a good fit for them wasn't a good plan, right? We had to make other arrangements. So that's why it's kind of helpful to have somebody on hand that you can talk to that understands the interplay of all those pieces and help you make wise choices for your health.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So another prevalent disease, chronic disease that I see a lot in older adults are blood pressure issues, diabetes, like I said, the cholesterol piece. And this is my opinion, obviously. I feel that this is the gap in healthcare where they go to the doctors and, they say, well, maybe you're pre-diabetic or you're on the borderline of high blood pressure, or they're just diabetic, and their first treatment plan is, here's a pill and let's start with that and come back and see me in 6 weeks or a couple of months and we'll see how it's working. And maybe there are PCP offices that are doing this, and I hope that they are, but I feel that they don't give the referral out or any other piece advice about nutrition and about exercise to help with that. And I'm not saying that there isn't a place for pharmaceuticals. If there is a need and you're in that boat that you need it, then yes, but it shouldn't be the end all of it. And it shouldn't be the gold standard. It should be in addition to finding a nutritionist, a dietitian, or a physical therapist to help you with exercise and, all of that. And that just doesn't happen these days. And so older adults get sent home with pills that, they end up taking, and while they still have this horrible diet and nutrition going on, and then they sit on the couch all day long and they expect that this pill is going to help them lower their high blood pressure or their diabetes. So from a nutritional standpoint, what kind of advice, can you give someone who just found out, okay, you're diabetic now, and they are trying to figure and navigate that right now?
Yeah, so we see that a lot. And I was at the tail end of that too. I had ulcerative colitis for a lot of years and went and saw a gastroenterologist for about 14 years and was never once told that I needed to adjust my diet and it would help with my ulcerative colitis. You think about it, all the stuff that you put into your body is going through your digestive tract and touching every part of it. Why wouldn't my diet impact that? But they didn't really talk to me about fiber. They didn't talk to me about any of those pieces. And it's not really their fault. They don't have a ton of training. This isn't their field of expertise. And just like you wouldn't go to your PCP to go and deal with serious heart conditions, you'd go to a cardiologist, right? So really, truly referring out to a nutritionist is a good plan, because we can help you to make those choices where the doctor doesn't have that in-depth training in medical school. It's just not one of their focuses. They just have a few weeks of it. Blood sugar issues are related to a couple of things that I can see. One is this constant barrage of high carbohydrate diets that we live on, right? You said earlier when we were on our call that you go around to clients' homes and they often need more protein to help them build muscle, and you don't see that. You see a lot of carbohydrates and frozen meals in their freezer. And that would be my experience too. And we love our carbohydrate. We love bread and we love pasta and we love sweets and cakes and cinnamon rolls. We were just talking about the kids at school, and the school breakfast is muffins and a string of donuts, right? And orange juice and apple juice. And we love all of these things, but they're all so high in sugar. And so any of our clients we're working with, we're trying to keep them at 16 grams of sugar, processed sugar, or lower every single day. That's not fruit sugars, because that is handled a little bit differently by the body, although it can still be tough if you're dealing with diabetes. So I'd say first thing you need to start looking at, and you need to be careful, because if the doctor's already put you on metformin or already got you on insulin, then your blood sugar is going to be lower than it was. And now you're going to find yourself pushing it too low if you are not careful and don't keep an eye on it. So this is not intended as medical advice. This is broad general, right? So carbohydrates, watch the carbohydrate intake that you have. That would be one of the first things. Fruit does have all kinds of healthy fiber in it. It has all kinds of those vitamins and minerals that we were just talking about that are so important. And so including some of those in your diet is also, it's not ill-advised, right? You can have some, most people can have some, but do it at smart times. So if you have a piece of fruit, have it at the end of your meal, because you've already got proteins, fats, and fibers from your meal that are helping to blunt the way that your body is uptaking the sugar and using it. Right. So that's smart. If you must have a snack in the middle of the morning, in the middle of the afternoon, then make it nuts and a handful of blueberries. Don't go grabbing like a slice of cake or, something like that. I would think would be like rudimentary, like fairly basic understanding, right? There's also something called the low glycemic index, and that it's a measure of how foods impact your blood sugar when you eat them. So if you eat a white potato, this is where we get those don't eat the whites from, white potatoes, white rice, it will skyrocket your blood sugar and then cause an incredible spike in your insulin response as well, because insulin has to deal with sugar when it comes into the body. And so avoiding some of those foods that really, you get a low glycemic index chart. If you just go online and look for it, you can find that. Eating from a low glycemic index can be really, really helpful. Meat, most of our fats, lots of our vegetables, leafy greens, carrots, those sorts of things, they're not going to spike your blood sugar like crazy. So you can do those things, and that will help keep that blood sugar nice and stable. Some people find they do better on a grain-free diet when they are diabetic, because grains actually aggravate that blood sugar response for them because they're just so super sensitive to them. Again, it's all individualized. So just looking at what works for you and what doesn't work for you as well. And then the other piece of the puzzle to diabetes is twofold. It's insulin resistance. The body doesn't know, the insulin can't help get the sugar into the blood cells anymore. It's just kind of been taxed over years of eating these high carbohydrate diets, and getting that insulin sensitivity back is a bit of a challenge, but exercise helps, which you help with. And then fasting. We feast all of the time. And if you look back through any part of our history as a society, we always had feasting followed by fasting. Yeah. So we would feast at Christmas, but then we would fast for Lent, right? And we would take those pieces out. And we miss that now in our society. Food's readily available all of the time. We eat 6 small meals a day. We are constantly driving the insulin response up. So 12 hours at night, if you can do it, between your last meal and your first meal of the next day. And then fasting between meals, where you eat your breakfast, but then you don't eat for another 3 to 4 hours. And then you have your lunch, and then you don't eat for another 3 to 4 hours. And then you eat something light before you go to bed. Anything you're going to do light is at the end of the day. Don't over-exercise at the end of the day. Don't overeat at the end of the day. Don't overindulge at the end of the day. So those things can help. And then the last piece is one that people really don't think of a lot, and that's reducing the toxic load of the chemicals inside the home, because those chemicals actually work as endocrine disruptors, and our endocrine system inside our body is what helps us to avoid metabolic syndrome and blood sugar regulation issues. So you would find BPA is an example of phthalates that really mess with our endocrine system. They're found in our plastics. So you get these TV, honest to goodness, I cringe. You get these TV microwave dinners that then you put in the microwave in that container with all of the chemicals that are on there with the plastic film lid that you poke a hole in, and you microwave it at high heat until there's no nutrients left in it. And then that's what fills you up. It's just empty. It's devoid. You might as well chew on cardboard. It's just got no nutritional benefit left in it whatsoever, plus all the chemicals. But that goes for our canned foods as well. And so there's a distinct correlation between a diet that's high in like canned soups and the rise in diabetes. So if you can make a soup in a crock pot and put that away in the freezer in a glass container, so that it's protected. So you're lowering that toxin load on your body and all the toxins that it has to process, so that you're actually able to better balance your blood sugar. So those are some of the things that I think about when it comes to blood sugar regulation.
Yeah, those are two topics that we could spend hours going down.
Hours. I've got huge classes on those topics.
Yeah, I follow an intermittent fasting diet, and it's coming up on a year now. But even then, like as I've been learning and listening, like you said, this is general medical advice. It's not right for everybody. So again,
no, it's not.
You need to don't just hear it and start fasting. Definitely seek medical advice, especially if you have other
well, and if you're on insulin, I mean, that's a horrible plan if you're on insulin. So you need to speak to somebody to work through it. But most of us can get that like overnight of not eating that. And intermittent fasting often takes it from 12 to like 16 hours of not eating. And so and it can mess with your thyroid and your endocrine system too. It can put you under a lot of stress to fast, and your body might not be in a place where it's able to handle that. So yeah, absolutely speak to somebody about fasting before you take it on, but try and get blocks in your day where you're actually giving your insulin time to stop responding, because that's contributing to the insulin resistance.
And we also chatted about earlier, a lot of people think for a meal replacement or a snack, they reach for the Ensure drinks, which I didn't realize until I was actually in a patient's home, and she was caring for her grandmother, and we looked together at the sugar level in an Ensure, and she was giving this to her, and she was like, holy cow. And I think you said it's like 20 some grams of sugar in one of those small little bottles, and people are drinking this because they think, oh, this has a lot of supplements, a lot of nutrients in it that I'm getting. But yet, if you're diabetic and you're drinking one of those, or even not, I mean, anyone who drinks 21 grams of something, you're going to crash at some point. I know I will.
Right. Yes, absolutely. So, and it's corn, it's soy, it's often dairy, which are top allergens, top sensitivities. They often make people not feel well. They're genetically modified, which means your body really doesn't know how to process all of those chemicals and the adjustments that have been made to the food that's in that product. And then just so high in sugar. And so, if somebody's really malnourished, we talked for a few minutes beforehand about how calories are calories are calories, right? So so if somebody's malnourished, then we want to get lots of calories inside that person. We're not calorie counting at that point, except to like meet a minimum. Like we need to get that many calories inside that person. They need to be healthy calories from whole foods. And we're such an instant gratification society. It's so easy to buy a pack of shakes and stick them in the fridge and then grab one. In the nursing homes, they have them, where they're trying to put calories back into a patient and bulk them up a little bit. But that isn't always what we need. We need these whole foods that are rich in the things that are going to help our bodies heal, help our bodies put on weight. So lots of healthy fats. If you're malnourished, eat an avocado a day, put avocado oil and coconut oil on things, and and olive oil, get your oils in there because they're so calorie dense. Do eat whole grains, do eat fresh vegetables, right? Really do eat your clean grass-fed organic proteins, because the nuts, the seeds, all that stuff's going to help build up, right? And a shake that's full of corn and whey and soy and sugar is just empty. We talked about the difference between like monopoly money and real money, right? Drinking those shakes is a bit like taking monopoly money down to your bank and saying, I want to invest this. Yeah. And the banker's going to laugh at you because you can't do anything with that, and it's not going to grow, and it's not going to benefit you in any way. And when you have those whole foods, it's like taking real actual dollars to your body bank and investing them and getting a great return on it, right? So there is one though, I just wanted to throw a shout out, because this has been phenomenal for my husband's great grandma. My husband's grandma, she's here in town in a rehab, and they had her on Ensure, and she was having all kinds of digestive problems because it had dairy in it, and she's lactose intolerant, but nobody was checking. So I found one by a company called Kate's Farms,
Mm.
and it's all organic. It's got a great base of multivitamins in there. It's plant-based, so there's no cow product in there that might cause lactose intolerance. And they're phenomenal. They come in little 11-ounce containers, and they have less sugar than the 8-ounce Ensure drink does. So, and it's coming from better sources. So there are things out there if you need a supplement and get somebody nourished again and get their strength back up, but you don't have to rely on some of those other products that are just full of empty calories.
Right. Yeah, that's great information and great advice, because sometimes I think they just see the calories and they just like, here, take this, mom, take this, dad, and they don't
Yeah.
realize all the other things that are in it. They just see, oh, this is 400 calories in one drink, go for it. And it's like,
Yes.
no. So,
Yes.
all right. So I know we can go on all day, but the last thing that I really wanted to touch on that is another huge sticking point with me when I see patients is water intake.
Yes.
They have a hard time drinking water, and a lot of people will admit that, yes, I don't drink water. Tips on how you get people, I have some tips, but what would you suggest for someone who, the first thing they always tell me, it's, well, I'm going to have to get up and use the bathroom more. They're afraid of
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
I understand, but a lot of times tell them I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen because you're not even drinking enough to get to that point. So
Right.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, and they do. I mean, that's a very real issue. They're starting to deal often with urinary incontinence. And so their bladder muscles are not as strong as they used to be. And drinking does mean they need to get up and go to the bathroom. And then they've got mobility issues sometimes too. And so getting up and going to the bathroom can be quite a chore. And I know when we talked offline before, I was talking about the importance of, if we're keeping our people hydrated and they're dealing with those issues and they're in incontinence products, keeping those changed on a consistent basis so they're not sitting in their own wet incontinence products all day long is so key and so important, because we don't need that skin breaking down either. But hydration, I lost count of the number of times that I saw our residents go out for electrolyte imbalance because they got dehydrated, whether it was just the summer or they're already dealing with kidney issues. And so they're not, able to balance their electrolytes like they should do. And that's critical stuff, people. And that's like life or death stuff. We lost a couple of residents because they got themselves so dehydrated. So it is critical. I think the first thing I would say is hydration isn't always about what we drink. We think about this all the time. We just did a hydration seminar last month, so it's fresh in my head. But there are so many foods that are loaded with water. Now, if you're eating a microwave dinner, you're not getting it. But if you're having cucumber and tomatoes and watermelon and pineapple, these wonderful fruits and vegetables that are just chock full of liquid, those things count towards, like, I think it was 20 or 30% of your hydration for the day comes from the food that you eat. So make sure that you're getting those hydrating veggies in you and fruits as well, because that's going to help. A lot of people I run into, I can't believe how many people just don't like the taste of water, which, it's just a funny thing. So they'll do Crystal Light, which drives me, not to slam any companies here at all, but I just don't love putting the aspartame and the NutraSweet and all of those things in your drinks, because that's not any good for your body either. It's just a chemical crap storm. So there is a group in town in Gilbert. They make sweet leaf stevia drops. And stevia is a plant-based sweetener that is pretty safe for you to use, been used for thousands of years. And they have some flavor in it. And the stuff, I don't like stevia, and I like those stevia drops. So it's about making swaps, right? If you somebody who typically likes to flavor their drinks to get the water inside you, go get some stevia drops. They're just at Sprouts, and that will make a world of difference for you. So that can help. But herbal teas count towards your hydration. Anything that's decaffeinated really is going to help with your hydration levels. Think about the temperature. I'm sitting here, I have tea right now, but I don't drink cold water. I hate cold water. I mean, I hate cold water. I go to a restaurant and they're like, here's your ice water. And I'm like, I don't drink it. I went traveling last month to Oregon, and in the airport, I needed to buy a bottle of water. And I went and asked them if they could get me one from the back storeroom that hadn't been in the fridge, because that was about as cold as I could stand it. I drink hot water all day long. So I just boil the kettle and I don't bother with the tea bag.
Mm-hmm.
So think about, and especially if you're a caregiver working with a client, if they don't like ice water, they're not going to want to drink it. Do they prefer room temperature? Do they prefer a warm drink? It's easy to do that just with water. You can set goals for the day. There are water bottles out there on Amazon. They're a few dollars, and they have like encouraging words all the way down as you keep drinking your water to go, hey, way to go. You did it. You got through another 8 ounces. And it's mindfulness, right? It helps us to remember how much we've actually drunk, and just kind of work towards a goal each day, just one of these every single day. That's really helpful. Broth is a great way to get liquids inside of you as well, especially like bone broth that's really rich in some of those healthy fats, the vitamins and minerals that we need. I like coconut water is great because it's got loads of natural electrolytes in them. And again, we still need to be careful because these electrolyte pieces, if you have kidney failure or renal disease, then high levels of potassium are not going to work well for you. And you need to be careful about some of those drinks or electrolyte supplements. But as much as possible, I encourage my people to stick with drinks that are not artificially flavored, artificially colored, or full of sugar or artificial sweetener. So really, truly, that's probably the best way. I mean, in desperate measures, if you've got somebody who's severely struggling, then the shakes and the popsicles and those things can help, but they really aren't the best option if we're trying to stay healthy while we're also trying to hydrate.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of great tips. And I want to be respectful of your time, but thank you so much for coming on. I learned a lot, and I hope everyone watching learned a lot. Tell us how, if someone has a question or they want to work with you, how can they reach out to you? How can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're on the web and have email and phone. So my phone number is 480-757-0229. You can reach me there. Give us a call. My email address is Jayne with a Y, Jayne .Reynolds, REYNOLDS @abundantlifenwc.com. And our website is www.abundantlifenwc.com.
And you guys have a Facebook page and an Instagram page, right? So you're on all social platforms.
And LinkedIn as well.
Okay. Yeah. So great. If you guys have more questions for Jayne or want to work with her, please reach out. Her, and I've also sat down and spoken with Kelly. They are just a wealth of information, and I truly believe they can help you with whatever issues you're having towards nutrition. So I will also put all of your information in the comments below. So if people want to do that and have a link to your website, they can reach out to you guys there. So thank you again. And
absolutely.
Yeah, this was a great conversation. And like I said, we could spend hours upon hours going on different rabbit holes.
You know what, too, Lee, I was going to throw out really quick, on September, I think it's 10th and 11th, we're going to be at Fitness Fest at the Sheraton. So we'll be in the main hall in there. So if anybody just wants to pop down to the Sheraton on one of those 2 days from 8 to 4, we'll be there in person, and you can just swing by and come and visit with us for a little bit as well.
Is that the Sheraton in Mesa, or are you going to be in downtown?
In Mesa, in downtown Mesa by Wrigley, by the baseball field.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we can, and all of these events, can they find these events on your website where you will be?
We can put that one up. I haven't put that one up yet. We just agreed to go yesterday. So that's fairly new.
Okay. And then also that webinar, right? August 25th is what you said?
Yes, at 2 p.m. free to attend. We'll record it while we're doing it. So if you can't attend in person, we'll email it out to you after we get done.
Right. So at least register so you get the recording of the webinar. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jayne. It was a pleasure, as always, speaking with you.
All right. Thank you, Lee.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
So